Welcome to the Western Road, Sarnia Road, Philip Aziz Avenue Corridor and Intersection Improvements Project Public Update Meeting. We'll also be having an in-person session on Wednesday, November 12th. I'll share more details at the end of the presentation, or you can scan the QR code for more information. Before we get started, I want to let everyone know that we're recording this meeting and a copy will be published on the Projects Get Involved webpage. I see that more people are joining, so we'll just give it another minute before we start. Anyone just joining, welcome again. We have city staff and our project consultants here today to explain more about the project and answer any questions. My name is Taylor. I'm a communication specialist with the City of London. So thank you all for coming. Please note that you will be muted and your cameras will be off for the presentation. The project team will speak on construction impacts and show design drawings for the Western Road, Sarnia Road, Philip Aziz Avenue corridor, and intersection improvements project. The presentation will be followed by a Q&A session, so please use the Zoom Q&A feature to submit questions anytime, and we'll answer them at the end of the presentation. If you're uncomfortable asking a question during the recording, you can contact the project team afterward. So to start, I would like to begin with the land acknowledgement. We acknowledge that we are gathered today on the traditional lands of the Anishinaabe, Haudenosaunee, Lunenwapuak, and Atawandran. We honor and respect the history, languages, and cultures of the diverse Indigenous people who call this territory home. We acknowledge all the treaties that are specific to this area, the two-row wampum belt treaty of the Haudenosaunee Confederacy, Silver Covenant Chain, the beaver hunting grounds of the Haudenosaunee-Nanfan Treaty of 1701, the McKee Treaty of 1790, the London Township Treaty of 1796, the Huron Tract Treaty of 1827 with the Anishinaabe, and the Dish with One Spoon Covenant Wampum of the Anishinaabe and Haudenosaunee. The three Indigenous nations that are neighbors to London are the Chippewas of the Thames First Nation, Oneida Nation of the Thames, and the Munsee Delaware Nation, who all continue to live as sovereign nations with individual and unique languages, cultures, and customs. And with that, I'll pass it over to John to introduce our presenters today.
Good afternoon. My name is John Boss, and I'm a senior transportation technologist with the City of London. This project is being delivered by the city's Transportation Planning and Design Division with support from the Sewer and Water Engineering and Forestry Operation divisions, who are also on the call today. The city has retained AECOM to undertake the detailed design and tendering for the Western Road and Sarnia Road, Philip Aziz Avenue corridor and intersection improvements. This project was recommended through the approved environmental assessment in 2023 for the corridor that focus on improvements to enhance pedestrian safety, implement cycling infrastructure, improve drainage, and improve operations of the Western Sarnia Philip Aziz intersection. Joining me today are Andrew Denemy, also from the city, as well as Josh Ackworth from AECOM, who will discuss this project in further detail. Josh?
Thanks, John, and thanks, Taylor. For today's agenda, we've gone over the welcome and the introductions. We're going to talk about the project, the design overview, construction overview, traffic management, the project schedule, and then we'll answer questions at the end, as previously stated. So design progression, as John stated, the class environmental assessment completed in 2023, and we're now currently at the 90% design milestone. So the environmental assessment made several recommendations, and this slide's just highlighting some of the key ones with the improved sidewalks and new cycling infrastructure throughout the corridor, the intersection improvement at Western Road, Sarnia Road, and Philip Aziz Avenue, the upgrades to Philip Aziz Avenue, including curb and gutter, cycle track, and sidewalks, the new storm sewer at Western Road, Sarnia Road, Philip Aziz with a new storm outfall to the Thames River, and the replacement of water mains on Western Road to increase capacity and reliability. I'm now going to hand it over to Andrew to speak about the mobility master plan.
Thanks, Josh. As we were completing detailed design, the mobility master plan was also being finalized, and that recommended that Western Road be classified as a rapid transit corridor with dedicated bus lanes to improve transit reliability and increase people moving capacity. Also, a transit priority corridor was recommended on Sarnia Road in the project limits, which includes transit infrastructure only where needed to improve transit operations by implementing things like queue jump lanes or transit signal priority measures. Implementation of rapid transit is planned in about 10 years. The exact implementation timing of rapid transit is somewhat uncertain due to the reliance on external funding. As a result, staff re-examined the recommendations of the 2023 EA to consider the implementation of interim priority improvements on Western Road while minimizing costs. And we recognize the expressed concerns and importance of safety for pedestrians and cyclists. So sidewalk and cycling improvements have been planned for 2026 construction prior to Western Road being fully reconstructed to a rapid transit corridor. And to minimize costs and traffic impacts, full reconstruction of Western Road and Sarnia Road to accommodate new storm sewers will be deferred until reconstruction is required to convert Western Road into a rapid transit corridor. We'll now discuss more in detail what the interim plan improvements will include. Pass it over back to Josh.
Thanks, Andrew. So for Western Road, we're looking at extending the southbound right turn lane from Western Road westbound onto Sarnia Road. And we're going to provide new cycle track from Platts Lane to Brunley Walk and water main replacement from Platts Lane to Sarnia Road. At the bottom of the screen here, you'll see a typical cross section, and you can see where the new water main's being installed under the curb lane. So this is just a aerial image showing where the new cycle track and sidewalks will be installed. At the corners, you can see the much wider concrete surface area. Again, providing that additional capacity for pedestrians and cyclists alike. This slide is from Sarnia Road to Lambton Drive. In the light blue, you have the right turn extension showing where that right turn will be extended, as well as the extension of the cycle track on the east side of the road and the new sidewalk as well. You'll see that there's some modifications to Lambton Drive to provide for the cycling infrastructure through the intersection. And this next slide is showing Western Road at Burnley Walk, again, with a cycling connection across the road. Now from Platts Lane up to Alt House, which is here, we can see that we've got a multi-use pathway from Platts to Alt House. The darker blue representing where the water main replacement is going to take place, and heading to the Sarnia Road intersection on the bottom of the screen there with the cycle track and the sidewalk. Of note, the existing hydro poles along the east side of the road will remain. That's critical infrastructure that needs to stay in place at this point in time. For Philip Aziz, we're providing a 2-lane upgrade, including cycle track, sidewalk, curb and gutter. We're providing new storm sewers on Philip Aziz with a new storm outfall to the Thames River and the installation of the Western University sanitary force main that'll be coming up from the bottom of the hill. So typical cross section shown here. And as you can see, the gabion basket walls will be no more, and we'll have proper retaining structures with adequate space from the sidewalks. Again, on this slide, we're looking at highlighting the sidewalk and the cycle track in green, sidewalk in yellow, and showing what the corridor will look like upon completion. For Sarnia Road, we're going to provide new cycle track and wider sidewalks. This is planned for 2027 construction. So there's no change to the curb layout on Sarnia Road, and it's mostly the addition of the cycle track and the wider sidewalks. Just looking at the intersection improvements. So in the interim, we're providing the wider pedestrian crossings at the intersection, as well as the crosswalks are being set back to try and shorten the distance from point A to point B across the road. And then the concrete sidewalks have much larger waiting areas. And then we're also going to be providing the new cycling infrastructure through the intersection. A lot of these changes are to enhance the pedestrian safety and the operations of the intersection. There will be a leading pedestrian intervolve, which provides the pedestrians a head start before vehicles get a green light, improving visibility and reducing turning conflicts. And then this is also recommended with a lagging left turn phase, understanding the demand for left turns in this area. So the signal timing will be to have delayed left turns. So at the end of the cycle, after the through movement has completed, there will be a left turn phase, turning movement. There will be no right turns permitted on red. And the combined leading pedestrian interval and lagging left turn with the no right turns on red aims to enhance the pedestrian and safety and traffic operations. Just looking now at the tree removals, the red highlight is showing where trees trimming will be required or full removal. The tree depiction in the bottom left corner is more just to show that the root system extends beyond the tree canopy. And in some cases where construction won't be necessarily within the drip line of the tree, but we will be impacting 30% of the root zone, and that will require the removal of the tree just because of the amount of roots that are being impacted. Again, with the water main work and the cycle track being on the east side of the road, a lot of the tree removals are isolated to the east side of Western. Large vegetation required along Philip Aziz where the retaining walls will be placed and the gabion baskets removed. On this next slide, we have a rendering of the intersection, just a visual representation of what it'll look like when the construction is completed. You can see here the retaining walls pushed back with some landscaping features in front of it, as well as where the cycle track will be located and the wider pedestrian crossing areas. Just moving on to traffic management. For drivers, there's going to be reduced lanes through the project limits along Western Road. Access will be maintained to commercial areas and residents during construction. There will be a full road closure on Philip Aziz Avenue from the east side of Western Road to the Thames River. Access to Alumni Stadium will be maintained via Huron Drive for the duration. Construction activities will continue to be coordinated with Western University and the London Transit Commission. There will be a pre-construction public meeting, and at that time, we'll communicate further on traffic management. For sidewalks, any closures and restrictions that will be required during construction, there will always be at least one side of the road open or access to and from Western to the surrounding area. And we'll have wayfinding signs in place to help guide people walking through the construction zone safely. Some LTC stops may be impacted while this work is underway. Transit riders are advised to visit the LTC website for service updates during construction. Some upcoming activities before construction that are going to occur in the fall, winter of 25-26. Advanced tree removals, and this is to be completed before March 31st to make sure that we're not impacting birds or bat nesting windows. Utility investigations, likely in the way of a vac truck doing some exploratory work, and then also some utility relocations in advance of the main contract to make sure that we don't have conflicts when we get there for construction. Activities between now and construction are to finalize the detailed design in the fall of 25, the advanced tree removals in the fall and winter of 25-26, project tendering and award in the winter of 2026 for a contractor, advance construction notices 2 weeks prior to construction, and it would be before construction and after project award, there would be the public update meeting as stated on the previous slide, and then construction in the spring of 26 to December of 2026. And I'm gonna turn it back over to Taylor.
Thanks, Josh. So to get involved, we have a couple of opportunities. There'll be an in-person drop-in session this Wednesday from 5 to 7 p.m. at St. Thomas More Catholic School. And then you can also sign up for email notifications on Get Involved. You can scan the QR code, it will take you right there. And then you can also contact the project team, and their information is on the slide here or also on the Get Involved webpage. So we will now begin to take some questions. To ask your question, please use the Q&A feature on Zoom. This icon is located at the bottom of your screen and is marked with the word Q&A. Your comments are also welcome, and we will be collecting all of them for the project team to review after the meeting. If you have any questions about specific properties or details you would like to discuss individually with the team, you can leave your contact information in your comment, or you can also connect with the project team directly by email, phone, or submitting your question through Get Involved. So let's dive into some questions. Josh, can you go back to, I think it was slide 21 with the intersection rendering?
Yep, bear with me here for a second.
Okay, so first question is why not implement a pedestrian only light?
I can answer this one.
I was going to ask if you wanted me to or if you were going to, so that's good.
Okay. City staff did consider a pedestrian scramble or an exclusive pedestrian phase, both during the EA and detailed design phases of the project. And the reason why we aren't moving forward with a pedestrian only phase is because the traffic modeling predicts that implementation of a pedestrian-only phase would significantly increase the existing average vehicle delays for drivers and transit, which does not fully align with the long-term vision for the corridor, which its goal is to ensure that we have it's compatible with the operational needs of a high-frequency transit corridor. So this implementing a separate pedestrian phase would add delays that would negatively impact transit reliability and on-time performance. In terms of an evaluation of a pedestrian scramble as well, traffic analysis determined that pedestrian volumes fell short of the recommended thresholds for pedestrian scrambles in other municipalities. And also the overall pedestrian flow was inconsistent throughout the day, particularly in the morning hours. So that also raises concerns about driver compliance and safety during periods of low pedestrian activity.
Thanks, Andrew. Um, Another question here is, why not add a right-hand turn lane at Philip Aziz turning onto Western Road?
Can answer that one as well. In the environmental assessment, it was not recommended to have a right turn lane as part of VEA. We wanted to ensure that pedestrian crossings were as short as possible. So adding an additional lane would add increased length for pedestrians crossing. Um, I don't know, if Josh, you had any other additional information?
Oh, I think you've covered it, Andrew.
Yeah.
Okay, next question. Are you extending the barrier on Sarnia near to the gas station to prevent people from turning left from there?
Yeah, I see in this rendering it's not shown. I do recall in the environmental assessment, we were changing the access to a right in, right out only, extending that median. So we will review and determine if that would be incorporated into our interim improvements. So thanks for pointing that out. We'll take a look.
Thanks, Andrew. Another question here. Western University has a desire to use Brusha Lane for access to and from Springett parking lot. Previously, our neighborhood association has been assured that if this was approved, access to streets west of the parking lot on Ramsey Road would be restricted. Is that still the position of the city?
Good question. I'm gonna have to follow up with our staff to see what commitments we made previously. So we can take that back with our team and follow up.
Thanks, Andrew. We have a couple of questions on trees here, but I'm gonna ask this one before we go there. How long will the LPIs be?
The LPIs typically give a 3 to 4 second head start for pedestrians crossing. And during this time, all the left turn movements will be a separate protected phase, along with no turns on red. So I don't know the exact signal timing and the length of each phase. But that's the idea of the LPI, is to provide a head start, like a 3 to 4 second head start for pedestrians.
Thanks,
Just
Andrew. Oh,
add to that, I think there's a second part to that same question that talked about the tighter turning radius there. And that is the case. The curbs at the intersection have been adjusted to the city standard to reduce the conflict and increase the visibility. So good point on that one.
thanks, Andrew. Thanks, Josh. A couple of tree questions here. So, will trees be replaced one for one? And similarly, will new trees be planted to replace the ones that are being cut down?
So through the environmental assessment, trees were to be replaced at a 3-to-1 ratio. And then that's in consultation with the First Nations. We'll also be following the city bylaw. So if there's trees that are very large in diameter, it's one tree per 10 centimeters at DBC, which is diameter at breast height. And we would be following whichever is the greater of those two between the city bylaw and our commitment to the First Nations to replace trees.
Thanks, Josh. Someone here is asking about their kids go to University Heights Public School, and their question is, will traffic be diverted down Combs during construction? It's a school zone, and they've had problems in the past and are with speeding cars. Also, how can we add the possibility of a traffic light on Sarnia and Combs intersection?
I can answer this one. During construction for Sarnia Road, traffic will not be detoured onto side streets. They'll maintain traffic on Sarnia Road. However, we do understand cut through traffic during construction, so we would evaluate temporary traffic calming measures. Um, in terms of your request for signals, that would need to be reviewed by our traffic engineering team. They would need to do a traffic study to determine the warrant for signals at that intersection. So we can follow up with our traffic engineering team to review. I don't believe that was identified in the environmental assessment either. So at that time of the EA, it likely was not recommended. And did I miss another part of that question or did I cover it all? That was.
Did you answer the speeding cars piece, the first piece?
Yes, we would
Yep.
evaluate temporary traffic calming
Okay.
measures.
Thanks, Andrew. Why are transit only lanes not included as per the city's master mobility plan?
Yes, so transit only lanes on Western Road is planned in the near term within 10 years. The timing of implementation of rapid transit on Western Road is dependent on external funding. We wanted to implement interim priority measures for pedestrians and cyclists on Western Road. So this project plan for 2026 will only include improvements to sidewalk and cycling facilities. And then planning will commence in the near term for that larger conversion to rapid transit.
Thanks, Andrew. Did we touch on the pedestrian scramble already?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. One question here is, would it be safer to reduce corner radii further as per NACTO guidelines?
For this question, we did evaluate the smallest radius that we could construct to accommodate the design vehicles that we anticipate for the intersection. So there's our buses and larger vehicles that do use and turn onto Philip Aziz Ave. So we did check those turning movements to see what the smallest radius we could accommodate. So we've tried to minimize it as much as possible.
We did touch on the Combs and Sarnia traffic light, right?
Correct.
Yep, okay.
Seeing that we have a lot of comments on the Combs intersection, I highly recommend you guys to submit formal questions through to John and the contacts of the city. Um, Certainly something that can be looked at or considered, and just my recommendation is to get those comment forms filled out and into the city.
Couple more questions here. Will there still be an advanced green arrow for southbound traffic making right turns going west on Sarnia from Western Road?
So that will be reviewed further. However, my understanding is because we are implementing no turns on red, that advanced green arrow for southbound traffic making right turns on Sarnia will not be implemented. But again, we'll review that with our traffic engineering team to see how that impacts the operations. But currently, that's not planned.
Will the cycle tracks be kept clear of snow during winter?
That I need to confirm with our operations division. John, do you know the answer to that?
No, no, I'm not comfortable with giving an answer at this point in time. I think that we should confirm that with our operations divisions about how they want to approach this.
Josh, could you go back to the get informed slide? We just have someone here who wants to know. So to submit a comment to the project team, you can either go to getinvolved.london.ca/Western Sarnia. If you scroll down all the way down, there is a little survey there that you can directly put your questions and comments in there, or you can scan the QR code.
So Taylor, I see one question here that's just about students often set out to cross the intersection when the indicator says not to walk. So I think the leading pedestrian interval will really help with this because it's giving pedestrians the first movement at the intersection and it's giving them priority. And then the vehicles will get their opportunity to move through the intersection. And then at the end of the cycle is when the left turns will come through the intersection. So uh, I think the leading pedestrian interval will help alleviate that challenge.
Thanks, Josh. Any last minute questions for the project team? Will this slow traffic when turning left from Wardcliff onto Sarnia?
So overall, our traffic engineering team did evaluate how implementing this leading pedestrian interval, how it impacts traffic operations. There is anticipated delay associated with implementing leading pedestrian intervals. I don't have the number off by head, but
Thanks, Andrew. Another question here. How wide will the sidewalks be? Any consideration for wider walks along the length?
So from Platts Lane to the alt house entrance. It's a multi-use pathway, be a 3 meter minimum, as we can kind of see on the right-hand side of the page here, and 2.25 concrete sidewalk on the other side. We're trying to maintain a minimum 2 meter sidewalk everywhere that we can, and a 1.8 meter bike lane or cycle track. So I'm just gonna flip to the Philip Aziz here, and again, 2 meter sidewalk, 2 meter asphalt path on both sides of the road for pedestrians and cyclists here. And then if I jump to the Sarnia Road, again, 1.8 meter sidewalk and 1.8 meter bike path on one side. And where we've got the hydropole street lighting conflict, you've got a 1.6 meter bike lane and a 1.8 meter concrete sidewalk.
Thanks, Josh. Andrew and John, I know we touched on this, but someone is asking where we can find the comment forms for the Sarnia and Coombs intersection. Could you just give some more information on that?
I think maybe the best to do is just to email me directly at the email address on there. We'll give you some more information from there.
Thanks, John. Josh, could you go back to the project schedule? We just want to repeat the start and finish dates for the construction, digging at the siding between the Athletic Center and Philip Aziz Road, will be a substantial project.
Yeah, so what we're looking at is a spring start to December of 2026, and obviously there will be top coat asphalt and some cleanup work in 2027, as well as Sarnia Road moving forward in 2027. The intent currently is to start construction after exams are over and the Western University population is significantly decreased. And then obviously through the spring, summer, and fall to get this project completed. The storm sewer is deep, so it is a pretty significant excavation, and there will be language in the contract specific to maintaining access to the stadium. So we we're well aware that there's going to be some challenges with access, and we're going to manage that to the best of our abilities. Hopefully that answered that question.
Thanks, Josh. Currently there is a paved shoulder in front of Ivy that is a gradual ramp up to the sidewalk rather than having a curb. So cars use this as an extra lane. Will this be removed?
Yes, we're going to be putting curbs in where curbs don't exist currently so that we can provide a proper barrier between the cycle track and the sidewalk.
Are we concerned about the backed up left lane when turning left onto Sarnia?
During the EA, we did evaluate the intersection and the level of service at the intersection, and it's difficult to try and balance the needs of cyclists, pedestrians, and vehicles. So the EA didn't recommend any improvements to that left turn. So it will be maintained. However, again, those improvements for a future project would be evaluated during the future assessment for rapid transit and preliminary design.
Yeah, just to build off of that, Andrew, we did evaluate dual lefts as well as other alternatives. And what happens at the intersection when you start adding that movement into the traffic is it then uh, creates a level of service that's unacceptable for pedestrians.
Thanks, Josh and Andrew. I thought that the university owns this property. Why is the city paying for these upgrades?
So Philip Aziz Avenue is city right of way, and it's a corridor that provides the city drainage for Western and Sarnia Road. So as part of this project on Philip Aziz, we are upsizing the storm sewers to accommodate the stormwater management strategy moving forward for Sarnia and Western Road.
Thanks, Andrew. There are summer children's programs that use the parking lot close to the stadium as drop-off and collection areas. Will the summer programs be able to continue during the construction, or will the location have to be changed?
Yeah, maybe I can speak to that one. We're going to continue to discuss with Western on this project about things like this and see what kind of opportunities there are for notice to those who use these camps about how to get to the facilities and that. So this is just all part of continuing discussion with Western.
Thanks, John. I'm not seeing any new questions here, but I'll leave it open. If anyone has any last minute questions for the project team, feel free to put them in the chat. A question here. Are there any construction projects on Wonderland at the same time as this one?
There's some planned work, Wonderland and Dingman, so the opposite end of the city. I can't speak to any of the utility companies, but I do know that the city has work for water main improvements at the south end of the city.
Josh, could we go back to the project schedule slide, please?
Yep.
We just have a question here. What's the expected end date for the phases of construction?
Um, so I'm not sure what is meant by phases of construction. Uh, at a high level, it'll be Western Road and Philip Aziz in 2026 and Sarnia Road in 2027 with top coat asphalt in the spring of 2028 on Sarnia Road. And the Philip Aziz Western Road top coat asphalt would be in the spring of 2027. The specific breakdown of how the project will be built is something that will likely be shared at the pre-construction meeting in advance of construction. Um, I don't know, Andrew, do I need to go any further than that, or is that okay?
Yeah, I think you covered it. We would have more information at the pre-construction meeting where when we have a contractor on board, we tend to get a better sense of exact timelines and phasing.
Thanks, Josh and Andrew. A lot of people go through the campus and use Philip Aziz to get to Sarnia, Western Road and vice versa. Has there been an evaluation of the impact of traffic flow on the campus with the closing of Philip Aziz?
I don't believe that there's been an evaluation to date. Again, I think there's also been talks with Western Road of them closing Huron Drive at Philip Aziz. Again, nothing finalized, but something that was thrown around early on or discussed and talked about. So for now, I think it's business as usual. Again, one of the other things, Western is looking for a temporary construction access by Thompson Arena for some of their ongoing infrastructure. And again, not related to this project and not something that we are necessarily in control of. I don't know, Andrew, if you want to elaborate on that more.
Yeah, I was just going to mention we are coordinating these works with Western to ensure that access is maintained while Philip Aziz is closed. So we are still trying to maintain access to that to Western's network, and that's ongoing. Um, and yeah, we understand that this would have major impacts, especially to access the stadium as well. So we're working with them to ensure that appropriate detours are in place and people can still get to where they need to go.
Thank you. Since this construction will increase traffic on Oxford Street, are there plans to minimize construction on Oxford Street during the Western Sarnia timeframe?
Yeah, we do take this, well, we do coordinate our projects together to ensure that we aren't impacting major routes that are adjacent to this corridor. I don't believe that we have any current plan projects on Oxford Street next year. Um, Taylor Douglas from Water is also on the call. I'm not sure if he is aware of any projects planned on Oxford during Western Road infrastructure, but I don't believe there is anything.
Yeah, sorry, Oxford. I don't have any personal projects on Oxford Street, but yeah, unfortunately, we do have multiple project teams and whatnot. So I can't speak to everything. But as far as I know, we don't have anything that was anticipated to proceed on Oxford Street.
There may be the odd time where an emergency happens, a water main breaks or something like that happens. You can't control that, but we're trying to avoid competing projects that will lead into a detour. Right now, even the plans on Western Road are to have lane reductions and not closures. So Western Road, yeah, we'll see lane reductions. So there will always be to some degree traffic flow. It will be slower, but there will be some traffic flow at least.
Thanks, everyone. We have about 10 minutes left, so if anybody has any last minute questions, feel free to use the Q&A chat on the bottom of your screen. Josh, could you go back to the Get Informed slide just so that people can scan the QR code if they have any other questions for the project team? Thank you. Just gonna leave it open for a minute or two. If anybody has any last minute questions, please leave them in the chat. So I'm not seeing any other questions here. I'm gonna give everyone one last chance before I wrap it up. Okay, I'm gonna wrap it up now. So thank you everyone for joining. The presentation and recording will be posted on the project webpage. Feedback can be submitted via Get Involved, and please contact the project team with any further questions or comments. Thank you, everyone. Have a great day.